Chapter 7, Holes. Boys and girls, I just want to let you know that this chapter will be recorded in 2 parts because I can only upload 15 minutes or less to YouTube. Chapter 7. The shovels felt heavy in Stanley's soft, fleshy hands. He tried to jam it into the earth, but the blade banged against the ground and bounced off without making a dent. The vibrations ran up the shaft of the shovel and into Stanley's wrists, making his bones rattle. It was still dark. The only light came from the moon and the stars, more stars than Stanley had ever seen before. It seemed he had only just gotten to sleep when Mr. Pendanski came in and woke everyone up. Using all his might, he brought the shovel back down onto the dry lake bed. The force stung his hands but made no impression on the earth. He wondered if he had a defective shovel. He glanced at Zero about 15 feet away, who scooped out a shovelful of dirt and dumped it onto the pile that was already almost a foot tall. For breakfast, they'd been served some kind of lukewarm cereal. The best part was the orange juice. They each got a pint carton. The cereal actually didn't taste too bad, but it had smelled just like his cot. Then they filled their canteens, got their shovels, and were marched out onto the lake. Each group was assigned a different area. The shovels were kept in a shed near the showers. They all looked the same to Stanley, although X-Ray had his own special shovel, which no one else was allowed to use. X-Ray claimed it was shorter than the others, but if it was only by a fraction of an inch. The shovels were 5 feet long from the tip of the steel blade to the end of the wooden shaft. Stanley's hole would have to be as deep as his shovel, and he'd have to be able to lay the shovel flat across the bottom in any direction. That was why X-Ray wanted the shortest shovel. The lake was so full of holes and mounds that it reminded Stanley of pictures he had seen on the moon. "If you find anything interesting or unusual," Mr. Pendanski had told him, "you should report it to either me or Mr. Sir when you come round with the water truck. If the warden likes what you have found, you'll get the rest of the day off." "What are we supposed to be looking for?" Stanley asked him. "You're not looking for anything. You're digging holes to build character. It's just if you find anything, the warden would like to know about it." He glanced helplessly at his shovel. It wasn't defective. He was defective. He noticed a thin crack in the ground. He placed the point of the shovel on top, then jumped on the back of the blade with both feet. The shovel sank a few inches into the packed earth. He smiled. For once in his life, it was good to be overweight. He leaned on the shaft and pried up the first shovelful of dirt, then dumped it off to the side. "Well, only 10 million more to go," he thought. Then he placed the shovel back in the crack and jumped on it again. He unearthed several shovelfuls of dirt in this manner, before it occurred to him that he was dumping his dirt within the perimeter of the hole. He laid the shovel flat on the ground and marked where the edges of his hole would be. 5 feet was awfully wide. He moved the dirt he'd already dug up past his mark. He took a drink from his canteen. 5 feet would be awfully deep, too. The digging got easier after a while. The ground was hardest at the surface, where the sun had baked the crust, about 8 inches deep. Beneath that, the earth was looser. But by the time Stanley broke past the crust, a blister had formed on the middle of his right thumb, and it hurt to hold the shovel. Okay, boys and girls, what you won't understand if you're not reading this book is that now we have a flashback, or in close reading, what we call a memory moment. Stanley's great-great-grandfather was named Elya Yelnats. He was born in Latvia. When he was 15 years old, he fell in love with Myra Minke. He didn't know he was Stanley's great-great-grandfather. Myra Minke was 14. She would have turned 15 in 2 months, at which time her father had decided she should be married. Elya went to her father to ask for her hand, but so did another man named Igor Barkov, the pig farmer. Igor was 57 years old. He had a red nose and fat, puffy cheeks. "I will trade you my fattest pig for your daughter," Igor offered. "And what have you got?" Myra's father asked Elya. "A heart full of love, said Elia. I'd rather have the fat pig, said Myra's father. Desperate, Elia went to see Madame Zeroni, an old Egyptian woman who lived on the edge of town. He had become friends with her, though she was quite a bit older than he was. She was even older than Igor Barkov. The other boys in the village liked to mud wrestle. Elia preferred visiting Madame Zeroni and listening to her many stories. Madame Zeroni had dark skin and a very wide mouth. When she looked at you, her eyes seemed to expand, and you felt like she was looking right through you. Elia, what's wrong? She asked before he even told her he was upset. She was sitting in a homemade wheelchair. She had no left foot. Her leg stopped at her ankle. Oh, I'm in love with Myra Minky, Elia confessed. But Igor Barkov has offered to trade his fattest pig for her. I can't compete with that. Good, said Madame Zeroni. You're far too young to get married. You've got your whole life ahead of you. But I love Myra. Oh, Myra's head is as empty as a flower pot. But she's beautiful. So is a flower pot. Can she push a plow? Can she milk a goat? No, she is too delicate. Can she have an intelligent conversation? Oh, no. She is silly and foolish. Will she take care of you when you are sick? No, she is spoiled and will only want you to take care of her. So she is beautiful. So what? Patooey! Madame Zeroni spat on the dirt. She told Elia that he should go to America, like my son. That's where your future lies, not with Myra Menke. But Elia could hear none of that. He was 15, and all he could see was Myra's shallow beauty. Madame Zeroni hated to see Elia so forlorn. Against her better judgment, she agreed to help him. It just so happens my sow gave birth to a litter of piglets yesterday, she said. There's one little runt whom will not eat. You may have him. He would die anyway. Madame Zeroni led Elia around to the back of her house where she kept her pigs. Elia took the tiny piglet, but he didn't see what good it would do him. It wasn't much bigger than a rat. Oh, it'll grow, Madame Zeroni assured him. Do you see that mountain on the edge of the forest? Yes, said Elia. On the top of the mountain is a stream where the water runs uphill. You must carry the piglet every day to the top of the mountain and let it drink from the stream. As it drinks, you are to sing to it. She taught Elia a special song to sing to the pig. On the day of Myra's 15th birthday, you should carry the pig up the mountain one last time, then take it directly to Myra's father. It will be fatter than any of Igor's pigs. If it is that big and fat, said Elia, how will I be able to carry it up the mountain? Oh, the big lid is not too heavy for you now, is it? Asked Madame Zeroni. Of course not, said Elia. Do you think the piglet will be too heavy for you tomorrow? No. Every day you will carry that pig up the mountain. It will get a little bigger, but you will also get a little stronger. After you give the piglet to Myra's father, I want you to do one more thing for me. Anything, said Elia. I want you to carry me up the mountain. I want to drink from that stream, and I want you to sing the song to me. Elia promised he would. Madame Zeroni warned him that if he failed to do this, he and his descendants would be doomed for all eternity. At the time, Elia thought nothing of the curse. He was just a 15-year-old kid, and eternity didn't seem much longer than a week from Tuesday. Besides, he liked Madame Zeroni, and he would be able to carry her up the mountain. He'd be happy to carry her up the mountain. He would have done it right then and there, but he wasn't yet strong enough. Okay, now we're back to present-day Stanley. Stanley was still digging. His hole was about 3 feet deep, but only in the center. It sloped upward to the edges. The sun had just come up over the horizon, but he could already feel its hot rays on his face. As he reached down to pick up his canteen, he felt a sudden dizziness and put his hands on his knees to steady himself. For a moment, he felt afraid he was going to throw up. But the moments passed. He drank the last drops of his water from his canteen. He had blisters on every one of his fingers now, and one in the center of each palm. Everyone else's hole was a lot deeper than his. He couldn't actually see the holes, but he could tell by the size of their dirt piles. He saw a cloud of dust moving across the wasteland and noticed that the other boys had stopped digging and were watching too. The dirt cloud moved closer, and he could see that it was trailed behind a red pickup truck. The truck stopped near where they were digging, and the boys lined up behind it. X-Ray in front, Zero at the rear. Stanley got in line behind Zero. Mr. Sir filled each of their canteens from a tank of water in the bed of the pickup truck. As he took Stanley's canteen from him, he said, "This isn't Girl Scout camp, is it?" Stanley raised and lowered one shoulder. Mr. Sir followed Stanley back to his hole to see how he was doing. "You better get going," said Mr. Sir, "or else you're going to be digging in the hottest part of the day." He popped some sunflower seeds into his mouth, deftly removed the shells with his teeth, and spat them into Stanley's hole. Now we're back to Elia. Every day, Elia carried the little piglet up the mountain and sang to it as it drank from the stream. As the pig grew fatter, Elia grew smaller. On the day of Myra's 15th birthday, Elia's pig weighed over 50 stones. Madame Zeroni had told him to carry the pig up the mountain on that last day as well, but Elia didn't want to present himself to Myra smelling like a pig. Instead, he took a bath. It was only his second bath in less than a week. Then he led the pig to Myra's. Igor Barkov was there as well, with his pig as well. "Ah, these are two of the finest pigs I've ever seen," Myra's father declared. He was so impressed with Elia, who seemed to have grown bigger and stronger in the last 2 months. "I used to think you were a good-for-nothing book reader," he said. "But I see now you could be an excellent mud wrestler." "May I marry your daughter?" Elia boldly asked. "First I've easy pigs." Alas, poor Elia should have carried that pig up the mountain one last time, because the two pigs weighed exactly the same. Now we're back to Stanley. Stanley's blisters had ripped open and new blisters formed. He kept changing his grip on his shovel to try to avoid the pain. Finally, he removed his cap and held it between the shaft of the shovel and his raw hands. This helped, but digging was harder because the cap would slip and slide. The sun beat down on his unprotected head and neck. Though he tried to convince himself otherwise, he'd been aware for a while that his piles of dirt were too close to his hole. The piles were outside his 5-foot circle, but he could see he was going to run out of room. So he pretended otherwise and kept adding more dirt to the piles that he would eventually have to move again. The problem was that when the dirt was on the ground, it was compacted. It expanded when it was excavated. The piles were a lot bigger than his hole was deep. It was either now or later. Reluctantly, he climbed up out of the hole and once again dug his shovel into his previously dug dirt.